Welcome to Block and Order, the show that explores the legal issues facing the world of Web3 and beyond. I'm Kyle Lawrence, and with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, but he's going to have to share space with some other legends today, Mr. Moish Peltz.
Hey, Kyle. Nice to see you. That's right. We're inviting on Yitzy and Yarden, and it's going to be a great conversation because they are legends of the blockchain.
They really are. Yitzy and Yarden, we had a very spirited discussion about how they see this world evolving. They're based in Israel. We're obviously here in the US, just the kind of interplay of jurisdictional questions and how best to do these things. It's always fascinating to hear the other perspective on how everybody, because we have the inside view of what goes on here and it seems crazy. And then to hear them with their view, it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I love hearing the global perspective, right? Because so much of what we do is localized, but then we're forced to kind of project globally because nobody wanted to be in the US for the last 4 years, versus like actually being based in a global jurisdiction, and having a different perspective. So some of that came out in the episode. I think some of it is just like, the scars from the battles we've waged together. But it's fun to talk with them, and I think we learned a whole lot about what they're up to. So
yeah, for sure. So without further ado, we'll kick it over to them. We'll put links to their podcast, Beyond the Code, in the show notes below. Please check it out and help support them. And without further ado, let's kick it over to our discussion with Yitzy and Yarden. All right, joining us on Block and Order, we are thrilled to have Yitzy Hammer and Yarden Noy, partners at DLT Law. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on.
Yarden, what do you got there? I saw you hold up a little cocktail. I'm curious as to what you drink.
I'm anxious around people, so I always make sure I have it. Like,
little social
just
humor.
in case.
I respect it.
Yeah.
Moish and I always talk about doing that on the show too, but it is early in the day here, and alas, we can't do it. But you guys are in the evening, so you're okay.
Yeah, I could see L'chaim Crypto being like a new podcast idea where we just like drink and talk about crypto.
But that needs to be live.
Twist my arm.
We should do a live stream. Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
We did kick the tires on that once, I believe, but it never came to fruition. But I'm ready.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do like an abstract live stream and start making some money with crypto for our legal streaming and that kind of thing.
And then we'll like just share like a meme coin, like Law coin or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's some Law coins out there.
There's a couple. Yeah.
Are they?
Have you guys ever considered dropping a Law coin?
I don't think we've considered dropping a Law coin, but Moish, that like back in the day, I did launch a legal services wrapped in an NFT, with like, I think, because I think we talked about it at some point with like, I made little like, apes representing each product. You could actually, I think it's still available online, though nobody, full disclosure, has ever bought one. So
see, that's
it was a nice gimmick.
So we did a client appreciation NFT, which got written up in like Above the Law or whatever. And with the trick is you have to like send it to people. So like
that's where it gets complicated when you actually have to do something.
Yeah.
Always the obstacle. Well, gentlemen, I understand that you were just at Consensus in Hong Kong, and while I was not in attendance, I saw you were there and was very jealous. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how your experience was? How were the vibes? Who'd you see that was, really hitting the mark? Who was off base? Tell me.
Jordan, you take it, man.
I did not see much. I saw like we were hard at work. Right, we sponsored Consensus, so we had a booth there, so we had to man the booth. We were like all 3 partners plus additional workforce there, and Itzy managed it like a big boss, the big boss that he is. Like I had to ask him for like permission to go smoke, go to the bathroom. So
it was not always granted.
I hear the panels were good. Look, the atmosphere was great. The event itself, it's their first time. I'll give them that. It's their first time like outside the US, I believe. Right. So like organizational wise, they're working on it. We talked to the team. They're working on it. It's the first time. It's never perfect. First runner up. But people like from all over the industry and all over the world. Hong Kong is generally speaking like it's a huge hub for Eastern Asia and globally, right? So we saw people from all over the world, friends, clients, partners coming in from really all over. We saw less, meme coins and just random hype kind of projects. I'm guessing, I guess, the market down 9%, they all get back to their holes.
Yeah,
It's all about the market sentiment, but the speakers were good. I hear overall attendance pretty impressive.
that's good.
Like all the who's and who's, great side events and parties, really great. That was when I didn't need permission to take a break. So that worked for me too.
Well, it's interesting that you
Uh,
mentioned that the I guess the meme coin and like some of that other that seemed to be down, and there was more. So like, what seems elevated now? What's hot now? What are people trying to build? What are people looking for?
AI agents.
Legal advice around.
Which are the
Right?
new AI agents seem to be the new meme coin. Everybody's working on some AI bullshit. Excuse my
Yep,
French.
you're good.
I'll just add on top of what Yarden already said. He's generally much more perceptive and smarter than I am. However, I do not agree with his analysis of consensus. I think it was like a pretty shitty event. For our purposes as like service providers, it was rocking. Okay, there aren't that many service providers there, and so like everybody's a potential client, and so we had our booth was very well located. You came in, it was like the first thing that you saw, and there was nobody who walked in there that didn't chat with us first. So like as an investment from a law firm perspective, definitely worthwhile. I think there were still something like 8,000 people that were there, but it was
Wow.
nothing like Token 2049 Singapore, which had like 20 at the conference and like another 40 that were there because they had Solana whatever it's called, Breakpoint. So this was much more low key on the organization side. It was lacking, but then again, I think it's because it was their first time outside of the US, and the team were like very keen to try and make everybody happy. But like the general sentiment was, I don't know how to say this, like in kosher you have like meat, milk, and then parev, which is like neither or. So it was very parev. It was just like it was like like
Yeah,
and I think it probably has to do with the market sentiment, because usually these events somehow magically are either around like a colossal like fuck up like FTX or whatever, or like at when Bitcoin is reaching an all-time high. And here Bitcoin price was like, am I here, am I there? And like people's sentiments are probably the same. I think it's generally a good way to read people's sentiments in the market. Just open up CMC and take a look at what Bitcoin is trading at today. So that's as far as the market was concerned, but there's definitely a maturation in that. Like we didn't see all those like shit corners and stuff.
yeah,
So
that's good.
what
I
did we
love the
see? I
idea
think what
of
we were seeing
a
was like a lot
parv
of
market. Yeah.
there was like this saying, or there is a saying, like all through the bear, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm building in a bear, man. I'm building in a bear. Like people are like, like we're just trying to make it through to the other side. And it sounds like this like annoying mantra that people say again and again and again. But now I think we're like actually seeing the results of it. All the people that were building in a bear have now come
that's
out on the
where
other
the
side.
value is. These are
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
people who believe
These are the
in a
clients you want to
product.
have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
These are the guys who were building in a bear, came out on the other side, and now they're still riding their previous investment round. But when they're coming to look at new investments now, they already generally have like a viable product. Their team is leaner and meaner because they had to survive throughout this long bear market. And when they go fundraising again, they're going to be a lot more attractive than like the new whatever hype is on the market. So
Yeah, that's a great point. I felt the same way after when Moish and I had formed this practice group a couple of years ago. It was kind of during the NFT boom, and everybody was just could make all the money that they wanted. And we're doing a 10,000 PFP. What are you going to do with the money? Oh, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Once that subsided, Yitzy, you hit the nail on the head. It's people who are much more serious about a long-term play, people who understand the tech and understand its use case, and it's kind of coalesces with the fact that meme coins are dying out and weren't part of what you saw, Yarden, because meme coins are, let's call it what they are. They're bullshit. They're especially now. A couple weeks ago it was great, but now that wave is over. So let's get that out of the way. Let's get the riffraff out of here and let's build something real, like AI agents. Let's do
It
it.
was so that was actually like one conversation that I had over and over again with people. I think meme coins are, it's not that they were great 2 months ago. It's they were the same shit. They just made a lot of money. And
They were
so we have
profitable.
clients
Yeah.
doing meme coins, etc. No offense, meme coins, serve their, their part. But that's exactly the point. That's part of the maturation of the
Yeah.
market. So you had the same. Again, there were like NFT projects that were valuable, right? And that was part of the maturation of the market. A lot of it, like a big portion of it, was bullshit. And before that, if you guys remember, like the bull run of 2017, 2018, 90% was bullshit. The 10% remained, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's the same sort of cycle over and over again. The bullshit transforms into something new every time, right? So it will happen again now with AI, or next will run who knows with what. But it's the same concept, and then 90% of the new hype bullshit dies out, 10% remains and changes something, right? So from as an industry, right, and the same you can see pretty much the same going on with exchanges and wallets, etc. There are products and protocols that ride that wave and eventually die out next round or the one after that, and the core remains, right, and gets stronger with the next bull. So it all connects to, like, the cycles are not just about the price, but that's
I,
part of the
I
motion.
agree. And I think it's not even just crypto, right? I think if you look at just venture tech and you look at, Y Combinator and you look at the percentages and the hit rates and it's, 90-10, right? Something like that. So I think that's just a part of the industry we're in. But I'm curious what you see. Yeah, we also have clients that are doing meme coins, and there's meme coins, as whatever that means to someone. I think just like NFTs can mean a very wide range of things, and some can be just for fun, and some can be just for making money, and some can be for creating something that unlocks. So, like, what do you see surviving from this cycle from I guess up to now this like there's a meme coin. I think there have been some interesting ideas. I think some meme coins have evolved into something else, whether it's really a utility token or something else that or a protocol or an AI something in disguise, or they kind of backed into that once they raised the money, like, well, now what do we do? So I
Exactly.
mean, yeah, so I
Well,
think that's the fun of it, right?
I
That
think
depends mostly, I guess, or that depends mostly on the team, I guess, right? So you can imagine sitting in that room or that garage with three guys, right? It no longer happens in garages, right? There's a room with three guys. Okay, we raised all this money. Now what do we do with it? Like, so some of them will take it home and go about their day, but many or some others would build something with it, right? And transform the meme coin into a utility or into a product that, we have all this money, and apparently people in the community believes in us. Let's try it out. If it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. We didn't promise anything to anyone. The coin still remains out there, right? So you never know what will stay and what will catch, either, in terms of a product. I'm looking at when I talk shit about meme coins, it's mostly from the macro perspective
Yeah.
of how does that promote the industry, right? I believe in the tech, and I believe in the ecosystem at large, right? And there are things that promote the tech, the use cases, etc., and the community and the crypto world, the blockchain world. And there are those who ride the waves, right?
For
So you
sure.
never know. Both can succeed and stay. You never know how things evolve, pricing wise, or sudden products coming out of it.
So how do you guys think about, being global regulatory attorneys, the idea that there's a group of founders, they sold a meme coin, they made a bunch of money. Now they're sitting around in their virtual garage and they're saying, okay, we want to evolve into something that actually has utility, that actually promotes the industry, that actually is something people like. How do you think about the regulatory approach to coming in midstream there and saying, well, okay, now we're going to do something interesting, but there isn't really a playbook for how you convert a meme coin that had no expectation, no promises of appreciation, no utility promised, and now we're going to convert that into something that does. Hey, Yarden, hey, Yitzy, can you help us think through the legal ramifications of that? How do you approach that question?
It's not a theoretical question. It's the kind of thing that we
Very
have
practical one.
quite often.
He led you into that, yeah.
It's not as hard to do as you may think. First of all, just going back to what you said previously, I think like what's going to be left when all this is over, like I feel like there's going to be a graveyard of foundations, just like tons of unnecessary companies that were open and nobody ever did anything with.
Yeah.
And
they like
unwinding those, oh my god!
and they
you
needed to
leave 'em
It's gonna be
exist
such a headache.
immediately. With, like you had to get it at any cost possible. It had to be set up within 3 weeks, and then nobody ever touched it ever again. A bunch of agreements were entered into with the foundation as a counterparty, and then at some point next year, the agent is going to knock on our door and be like, hey, can you just ping the client and ask them to pay the registration fees for another year on these 150 companies? They're going to be like, don't know where those guys are.
Well, I can ping them. That
we need a secondary market.
You can ping them, but they weren't docs, so you don't actually know who they are or where they are.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
So yeah, there's going to be a lot of that, but ostensibly, another great thing about meme coins, like when you ask like what's the next stage or where this is going, like what's going to be left, it's a meme, right? Like it's not supposed to mean anything. It's not supposed to have anything. It's supposed to just be like a collective idea. And I think, you saw this after the NFT craze where you had like literally, I don't know, like 800 mints a day at some point.
Yeah.
What you have left afterwards, because nobody gives a shit about most of the art, is like some solid communities, right? Like the people who like came together around this idea, they got excited when they FOMOed into it, and then they got excited when they were rugged afterwards, and they bonded over that shit. So you have these like really rich and strong communities. So that's like one asset that's going to be there regardless. And like maybe the community will spur on an idea and they'll do something with it, and maybe not. Maybe the people go somewhere, maybe not. But the founders or the guys who launched, I don't like to use the word founders because they didn't really found anything, but the guys who launched this product and now have all this cash sitting in their pocket and they want to do something else with it, like I don't really see an issue with that. Like, I mean, as long as we're able to color in like how they came to get a hold of the money, as long as everything is done above board. Maybe ethically there are some issues here. Again, like I'm not judging currently like whether it's the right thing or not, but as long as legally they were able to obtain the money in a proper way, whatever you want to do next with it, like let's plan it out, figure it out, structure it appropriately, and run with it. Did I answer your question?
He asked about the regulation. I like the way he did a 360 around without touching regulation.
I did a weave like Trump does.
Yeah.
What's the expression? A lawyer can't change its stripes. I think you answered it perfect. You can charge people for that too. That's the best part. It's something we bump up against here in the United States because, and Moish and I have talked about it on this show, and we tell clients the same thing. It's that leading up to the election, you couldn't do anything because the SEC was going to be there like a sort of Damocles. No matter what you did, they were going to come down on you. And then after the election, everybody's like, well, we can just kind of do whatever we want. And
crime is legal now, gentlemen.
Yeah, as long as it's not fraud.
If the president's doing it.
Then it's like, oh, maybe crime is legal. Okay.
Right. But we're still seeing a lot of these coins come out and people are promoting them on Twitter. You have KOLs talking about them. How do you guys balance that as part of your practice? You're not based in the United States, so the laws are a little different. Maybe you actually have laws. How do you balance that with people who are coming to you saying, I want to do this, walk me through it?
Yeah. So you mentioned our practice, and what makes our practice unique is A, we do only blockchain, and B, we work on a global basis, right? So we're jurisdiction agnostic and we operate globally. So, and everyone all over the world like looks up at or down or wherever, whichever direction you want to choose, like looking at the US, because A, that's one of the biggest markets that everyone wants to be in, both retail, institutional, accredited investors, etc. But also we all know that regulators are looking to, US regulators to see what will happen, what will come out, and, let's wait and see. And that's, by the way, that's very much the case in Israel, right? So in Israel, it's like let's wait and like remain kind of undecided on the, especially on the security side. Let's wait and see how it plays out in the US and Israel. We don't have like what tokens, are or might be considered as security in Israel, like same as in the US pre-election, right? Everything could potentially at least be viewed by the Israeli securities authority as a security. So everyone's looking at the US regardless of where they are. And I guess every lawyer in the world who does crypto can talk about, their jurisdiction and the US, right?
Right.
That's the news. These are the biggest issues. So the changes now are mind blowing, right? And I have to like, and I don't even know what to say. I was very skeptical about this administration's pre-election and post-elections, like in terms of actually delivering on the expectation. And I was wrong. Partly my political bias, but that aside, as a crypto lawyer and trying to predict the future, I was very wrong about that. I still don't think that the Howey test and the existing securities laws in the US are going to go away. They are going to be differently interpreted differently and applied differently. Plus, with the task force now led by Commissioner Pierce, who was the guest on. Can I promote another podcast on your podcast?
Yeah,
Is that
please.
Yeah.
right? So Yitzy here.
She was
Yitzy
also a
here.
guest
Oh,
on,
we had a
on
whole
Block and
series of
Order, by the
questions
way.
that we were going to start diving into.
Yeah,
beyond the
she
code.
was like an amazing episode and an amazing guest, and she's been a lighthouse for everyone watching that what's going on in the US for years now, right? And her dissents were like the best materials to read like ever.
For sure.
So the changes are real, and you've seen that like over the past week, the SEC has withdrawn like active law cases and said and are not going to pursue the appeals where they lost. Like these are real things,
Sure.
and
Yep.
they
Just
are going
yesterday
to
they dropped the Robinhood case.
The
They're
Coinbase one was
meeting with
dropped the
all the
other
market
day.
participants.
Yeah.
It's totally 180 from what it was 2 months ago.
Yep, and that give that to the administration, give that to the new chair, and like really like full respect, and you really now expect Commissioner Pierce's task force to deliver on actual clarity. Now she's now asking for a consultation from the public. I don't think she knows like what she's into. Like every
She
crypto
knows.
I
lawyer,
think
She
she
knows.
does. Yeah, I
the
agree there.
amount of material she's going to get is like going to be insane. But she like now like the SEC staff is off all these cases, so she has all these free hands like to read these consultation replies, right? So something is going to come out of like yeah, I think by now it's a reasonable expectation to see like real rules and clear rules, which is what the industry has been asking for since 2017, since the Dow case, right?
So the follow-up question to that is, how does that impact you guys being in Israel and taking a more global regulatory viewpoint versus, because you have to know the law of non-US and the law of US, and so
Yep.
this is only one aspect of that. So does that you just kind of warp onto, well, Commissioner Peirce is saying all the right things, so we'll just kind of
it's a great
take
question.
the optimistic viewpoint of that, or is it more complicated?
It's a great question. First let me just clarify. When you say that we're a global law firm, I just want to like explain what that means, because when you meet somebody and you tell them and they're like, "Where do you practice law?" and we're like, "Oh, we're jurisdiction agnostic. We provide global legal and regulatory services everywhere on the globe." They're like, "All right, like get out of town, right?" So let me just explain how that actually could even be a thing. So my partners and I are, Yarden and I are licensed to practice law in the state of Israel. Okay. That being said, we hardly do any work inside of Israel at all, and 90% of our clients have no nexus even to Israel. So what do? We only do crypto. Okay, by nature, and you guys know this, but by nature of these products, being, most of them decentralized and just engaging with decentralized protocols, you're by default exposed to multiple regulatory frameworks. So either you need to hire lawyers like in a million places, and then you're constantly like second guessing yourself, like, do I need to hire a lawyer here? Do I need to hire a lawyer there? Am I overpaying this guy? Am I underpaying this guy? This guy said I should be doing this, but the other guy said I do. So we make that much easier. Okay. I do not, but Yarden knows the he's well versed in the regulatory framework for crypto everywhere. Okay, even in like the randomest countries that I've never even heard of. Okay,
I just had a question. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you can't interrupt. No, I'm getting to the end of my pitch.
Free for all.
Okay.
All right. Sorry.
And that allows us to come in and look at the client's like product, look at their like where their founding team is, where their users are, where their investors are, and like what products they plan on rolling out, and based on that, helping them structure the optimal corporate structure from a tax and regulatory perspective, and also just set up like a regulatory strategy. And then, okay, we engage with, and this is coming to answer your question now, we engage with local partners in every jurisdiction, in relevant jurisdictions, to be boots on the ground and do the work, but we'll act as like a product manager, what we call like GC as a service, so that the client doesn't have to engage directly with all these people and have all these duplicative sets of work and advices that conflict with one another. We'll just manage their whole like legal and regulatory ops for their crypto business. And to your question of like how this is all going to change now, what I think is that we're going to be working with our US partners, Moish and Kyle, a lot more. Okay. And we're looking to strengthen the relationship with those US partners, because until now, the majority, most of our work has been working both with U.S. clients and non-U.S. US clients, structuring their products in such a way that they're not exposed to the U.S. Regulatory regime. Right. And now it's going to be the opposite. Now you're going to have people that are going to say like, yay, the SEC is putting out clear guidelines. We want to jump into the US. How do we do that? And you're going to have people that, have been blocking US consumers. So how do I unblock? Like the floodgates are going to be open, and there's going to be a lot more work and synchronization. People are going to be wanting to open up entities in the US and hire people in the US. And it's just going to be like a whole new renaissance of crypto. And that, I believe, is the end of my weave.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Great for the economy on top of everything. But just to make it practical for 1 second, just imagine the client or potential client that comes to you and telling you, look, I'm building this, and that. And like, where do I set up? Right? I need a company or a foundation or whatever. Where do I set up? Right? So US lawyers know by now, you had no choice, right? Cayman, BVI, etc. We look at, we dig into the product, what they need, and you can set up in Cayman, you can set up in BVI, you can set up in Panama, you can set up in Europe, you can set up in the UAE. These are the pros and cons of each, right? And now we can also say you can also set up in the US, right? And you can have you can have DAOs in the US now, right? In yep. Wyoming, Wisconsin, with
few
like,
states,
yeah. So that's another option that, is on the map. And for US founders, that's like, instead of saying, I need to set up, like, what are my options outside of the US, they would be like, what are my options in the US versus outside of the US, right? So that adds work for us and for you guys, but a lot of opportunities and saving a lot of headaches. Some of them might still, choose to incorporate offshore for other reasons, but that would be great for the U.S. economy first, but for the industry at large.
I agree completely, and I love your perspective on this as the non-U.S. counsel, seeing that happening. And from our perspective, we've been begging for something like this to happen now for years, and to see it happen and to see folks like you recognize the benefits of that, which are obvious to us, just speaks really loudly to the changes that are happening here.
Yeah, sorry, Moish. Like one comment on that. Like I said before, like crime is legal now with the pardons and the president doing whatever they want. I just want to make it clear for for everyone building, selling anything in the industry, globally and in the US. Please know that this is not the case, right? It's not that you can do whatever you want, right? So first, fraud, manipulation, etc. Still, like, please don't do that. But also, like, if you sell things that are securities and were securities before and will continue to be securities, they will continue to be securities, right? That doesn't change. Security tokens remain a thing, right? It's just there is now a lighter gray side of things, or even white. Maybe one day we'll have white.
And you've echoed something that we've been saying to our clients for months now. It's like, yes, the vibes are better. You still can't commit fraud. So thank you for synthesizing it much more eloquently than I often do.
I have another question, which is, Israel is the startup nation. There's a lot of tech that happens there. How much do you guys perceive, being based in Israel as a competitive advantage and enabling you to do the global regulatory work that you're talking about?
So it's a bit of an issue. Israel is a startup nation. There is so much tech and development that comes out of Israel, and it's no different in blockchain. Like somebody once told me the statistic that like 20% of all blockchain products are built in Israel. Now I don't know. It could be like from a market cap perspective. Like maybe that's true, but there definitely is a very strong development ecosystem here. We have like some huge companies. We have Fireblocks is Israeli, and we have just like some big names in the market. Celsius, may it rest in peace, was an Israeli company. Vitalik came up with the idea for Ethereum when he was working at an Israeli company called Color Coins, together with Yoni Assia, who is the founder of eToro, which has a strong some strong crypto products. So like there's been a lot of development coming out of Israel. That being said, Israel is not a good place to build from a crypto. Like nobody's building for the ecosystem in Israel. Everybody's building outside of Israel for the same reason that Yarden mentioned previously, that because of you guys, basically, because the SEC has not been forthcoming with guidelines. The Israeli regulators have just been like, oh, the SEC is not doing it, I'm not doing it. And so there are no clear guidelines in Israel. In fact, it's so bad. We have 4 regulators. We have, the tax authority, and we have the AML authority, and we have the securities, and we have the banking, right. So all these 4 regulators have complete, almost opposite opinions as to how you need to engage with crypto products. And so the ultimate gatekeeper, the banks, have said like, no, like no crypto at all, like under any circumstance.
Wow.
Kosher, not kosher, white, black, no crypto. Why? Because the banks say, and I've heard them say it like in many local events here, you have like the compliance officers of the banks come and say, listen, we're a for-profit company. Like we don't do this for fun. Okay. I'm not going to like take the risk of banking your crypto and then getting a knock on the door by one of the regulators and tell me you have like a several $100 million fine because you went against our regulations. But I was doing what the other regulator was telling me, but that regulator was telling me something else. So like, he's like, and they typically have these panels at like every crypto event here, where you have the compliance officers for the banks, and you have representatives of each regulator, and they just look at each other and they yell at each other, and like nothing changes, and they all in the end say like, let's wait for the US. So
they're good
it's your
people
fault.
and they mean well.
They are good people and they mean well. I blame Gary for everything. So hopefully now with like clarity coming from the US, there will be clarity in Israel. Maybe we'll be able to bank crypto here more easily. But answering your question, like having been exposed to so much tech and innovation for so long from a legal side, I mean, my background for the last 10 years was working in like a high tech department here in Israel, where you're seeing like insane deal flow and tons of innovation and ideas. And like Yarden and Shmuel, who were part of the financial regulation department, saw like, I don't know, like 5 ICOs a week during like the ICO boom, and like this is stuff coming out of Israel. So like, we've definitely, get exposed to a tremendous amount of deal flow, and it's helped us like mature and take a different, I guess, kind of like an Israeli approach to how to tackle this whole thing, because we haven't really see anybody doing it the way we're doing it.
We don't see like that's actually a very good question. So the way we work very much like follows the way the industry, like the crypto industry in Israel works, which, follows that tradition of how Israeli tech generally works. Like there are many projects outside of crypto even, right? Just tech projects and R&D being developed in Israel and sold abroad, right? So you see that
Yep.
in M&As and you see the services and products being sold abroad. Israel is a small market, right? Retail wise and financial, like as a general financial hub, right? It's a huge tech hub, right? So in the general tech industry and even like in agro tech and even if you go back to like low tech, we invent, very rarely manufacture, and the vast majority of things developed here are sold, right? So in the crypto industry, it's even more so because of regulatory and banking, etc. And again, because the market here is small, is controlled, the banking. It's a long story. We can do a separate episode about why the Israeli industries and the financial industry is built the way it is, right? In the crypto industry, everyone building, developing here sell abroad. Retail facing projects and protocols, most of them, like the ones who operate out of Israel, most of them say, just fuck it, let's just block Israel, right?
Yeah.
It's not worth, right, jumping through the regulatory hoops for this small of a market, right? For the US, you want to jump through the hoops because it's like biggest market, right? It's worth it. In Israel, it's just not. So they build with always like an eye out to the world. And that's how we operated, like advising tech companies, then crypto companies. And like, this is what they need. They build here, but they need to look at where they're selling to. That's how we started developing the way we
Interesting.
operate. And we, took that to the next level.
No, that's
Give,
amazing.
given what you were talking about and how Israel follows the U.S. in terms of regulatory, approvals and just moving forward in general, given that the U.S. has finally and mercifully struck down SAB 121, is there any scuttlebutt in Israel about those banking regulations following suit? Because that was just a terrible statute that we had here. I don't need to delve into the specifics of it, but has that resulted in any thawing that you're seeing at the banking level?
So you see a lot of, I don't think anyone here even thinks, or expects
Mm,
there to be some sort of like crypto banking in Israel anytime soon,
yeah,
right? And it goes again to that the issue that Israel, the financial, there are like 5 or 6 big banks that control everything. It's not like the US where a new bank can emerge, or even Europe with neobanks,
No,
etc.
there have been
There
no new
was
banks in
one.
the U.S. for what, like 10 years, 20 years, something like that.
Yeah, so we've had one like an online kind of neo. I think it's more of a branding thing that it's a neobank, right? It's not really like in Europe you have the neobanks and tech banks and online banks, but we haven't had one. Other than that, we haven't had one in 50 years, right? So they're all
wow,
super traditional, and 5 or 6 players control the entire market.
Right.
They're the biggest. The banks are the biggest companies like on the Israeli Stock Exchange. I don't think anyone really expects that to happen. We're just praying for banks to actually ban crypto projects.
sure.
That's our biggest hope right now. So we're not even remotely there yet. But we'll see.
But we can hope.
Yeah.
No, but I think it gives you such a unique perspective of, well, you're not really building for the local market. You're building for the global regulatory market, and you're building for, even a potential acquisition or M&A, but not necessarily even in the US. So you have to kind of game plan and make your
Exactly.
company, your clients bulletproof to survive that kind of global. It makes a ton of sense. Like that's
Yep.
amazing. That's not a perspective that we have, right? Because we're
Yeah.
very US heavy. We're thinking about the SEC, and we have
Yeah,
to think about the other jurisdictions where it'd be better than here because it was so crappy here for so long. But now that that's starting to thaw, it gives us a very I think, different and more localized approach than someone in your shoes. So I think that's fascinating. It's one of the things we love working with you guys on. So very cool. I have a question for Yitzy, which is, I was very lucky to have had the opportunity to be a guest on Beyond the Code, which Yarden mentioned as your podcast, and great podcast. I've listened to a bunch of episodes. It's funny because we talked about how we've also had some overlap in terms of guests, like Commissioner Peirce and some other guests. I'm curious, without to the extent you want to name names or however much detail you want to go into, what are the coolest things you've learned, while hosting the podcast, and who have your, favorite guests been, while hosting the podcast, and what do you think about just generally, that's kind of a loaded question, about like the podcast, but then in like sitting next to you as a lawyer and having a legal practice and all those things.
Great question. A lot of questions there. So I got
to answer however you want. I'm just curious, like how
it.
you as a podcaster, what your thinking is.
So first of all, I love the podcast. Like I have a lot of fun with it. I don't have me a Sean. I do it all on my own. Okay. I do like the scheduling, the editing, the distribution. I am actually looking to hire somebody now, but more to do like just kind of to just like create lots more content, and like I want to start a TikTok channel, but I don't even know where TikTok is. I don't like, I'm so old. I don't even have Instagram.
Is TikTok legal these days? I don't even know.
Yeah, can you even get it from the App Store? Let us know.
So it's a lot of fun, and I've learned a ton along the journey. I didn't even know what the heck I was doing when I started. I remember like a long time ago when I was just getting into like crypto law, and I wanted to learn more about it. Like I didn't have anywhere to turn to, and then the only resource that I had available was Jacob Robinson's Law of Code. Is that what it's called? Law and Code of Law, Law of Code, something like that. What's it called?
Law of Code.
It doesn't actually. He doesn't do it anymore. But
yeah,
for a while, it was like it was a great podcast.
Like now it has the little like it's a sleep button on
yeah.
it. Oh, it's sad.
We
should have Jacob. We should do a podcast with Jacob and catch up with him.
Jacob's awesome. I actually had him on as an opportunity just to like thank him. So he was like, it was really insightful to have this like resource that I can go to and I could learn so much about the legal side of things. And he was just kind of interviewing legal professionals, and I wanted to in the blockchain space, I wanted to like broaden the scope a little bit, because like I really love crypto, but I wasn't only interested in crypto. I'm interested in like emerging tech generally. Like I know AI is a buzzword, and I hate that it's become a buzzword, but like I also love it. Not that it's a buzzword. I love AI. So like from time to time, like I'll veer off of the like strictly crypto guests, and I'll go into AI or privacy or other things like that. So like strictly speaking, it's an emerging tech podcast, but like 90% of the guests have been crypto related. And
ride the hype, Pete. Ride the hype.
Yeah, the clicks, man.
Yeah, you asked what I've learned. Like, I've learned so much about people, like about engaging with people. Like, there are some people that I want to invite to the podcast, and like I have like imposter syndrome. I'm like, if I ask this guy to come and join me as a guest, like, there's no way that he's gonna say yes, right? Like, Commissioner Peirce is an easy one. Like, but there are other people as well, and sometimes I'm actually like actually really surprised. Like I have a guest coming on in the next couple of weeks that like I'm really, really excited about. Like just somebody with like a very, very cool story that like I'm really, really keen to share, and just somebody that like I'm like really interested in, that I'm just excited the opportunity to get on a call with them. And when we went just now in Consensus, I got this random email from this guy like 3 weeks before the conference. He said that he bought the right perpetually to all the paper in fortune cookies ever. Okay. So like he distributes all the fortune cookies distributed in 30 countries worldwide. He owns the paper inside. And so like he sells advertising rights on that paper.
Wow.
And like one of his first deals was like with FTX. Anyways, he sent me this email and he's like, I woke up late and there's no more room at Consensus, and I would like to come and like sublet from you a portion of your booth, and then I want to like live broadcast for my podcast, like my fortune cookie podcast, whatever, from your booth. And I ran the idea by Yarden and Shmuel, and they're like, no, like we need all the space we can get. And then so I told them no, but then I was thinking like, this is a great idea. I think I'm gonna like live broadcast Beyond the Code from the booth. And I started reaching out to some like founders who I thought would be interesting to interview, and like that's when like I realized how brilliant this whole thing is. Like I didn't do it from a business perspective, and people always ask me like, "Do you make money from your podcast?" Like, no, I don't. It costs me a lot of money and a lot of time, but like I don't directly make money. But like, there's no question that like indirectly I gain a tremendous amount of value from the podcast. Like, there's a few things. Like number one, there's like success by association. Like people assume that like if you associate yourself with successful people, then you must be successful as well. And like if you're associated with famous people, then you must be famous as well. That's not to say that I'm not like a brilliant, genius, successful person, but like people think that way. Okay.
Sure.
And also like if I was going to go to like the CEO of some big company and ask him like, hey, you want to like be my client or whatever, he'd just be like, get out of here. Like another person's selling me something. But if you come to him and I tell him like, hey, I want to give you the opportunity to like amplify your voice to like an audience of listeners who are interested in this type of stuff. He's like, oh, cool, man. Let's do it. You know, like no agenda, like let's just have like a fun conversation. And so like I've actually been able to get to a position where I have conversations with people. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this on air. I don't know. But I've been able to get to a position where I have conversations with people who would never otherwise like be willing to give me like 2 seconds in a conversation. And through that, we've actually like become friends, and I've been able to, you know, garner their trust, and then some of them have become my clients, but not because it initially like wouldn't have even like been open to that idea. So I love that. I love all that.
So it's not for the money, you don't make money of it, but yeah, networking generally, it's a tool for networking. People know who Yitzy is, right? He's a person.
It's true.
And then that is worth money.
And then there's like
that's why I pay him every month.
And then there's the other aspect. There's like I love all the gadgets, right? Like there's so much like fun stuff. Like I know you guys are like in your early stages, but like Kyle, at some point you got to get a new mic, man. Okay?
I know it's a work in progress. I know
it's just like a couple $100. You got to check this out now. Okay, I just got like leading up to the conference. Like I needed to have like a audio thing for like recording 2 people, which I didn't have. And so like I could do all these like really cool
voices here. You see this? Can you hear me talking like this?
Or how about this one?
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah, we can do the voiceover for our
the
podcast.
Sauron voice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's just like a lot of fun. Like I love the whole thing, you know, and you can do all these like cool like sound effects. Anyways, so it's important to have fun. You know what I'm saying?
I agree, and that's why we do it. We're not doing it to make money. We're doing it because it's fun. You meet amazing people. Like
and you guys bring so much value to the space. Like I listen to your I'm subscribed to very few channels. You guys are one of them, and like you guys bring really like fun, engaging content. I love it. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. We feel the same way. So keep it up. I know that you guys got to run soon, so I think we'll wrap it here. But really appreciate you guys coming on. Really appreciate everything you guys do in the space and all the things that we've been able to collaborate on. And we'll have to have you on again, or maybe we'll see you in. I think what we'll do is we'll do a live podcast at one of the events that I know we're both going to be at, and we'll have you on again to recap.
Yeah, we can do it together.
Let's do it in
like
Vegas.
Co-host. That could be fun.
Co-host.
Yeah.
In Vegas, gentlemen.
Oh, I love what's happening here. Let's do it.
All right, guys.
I told you before we went live. I told you we do business on air. That's the way we roll. Now you cannot take it back. Sean can edit it out, but
block and order goes with the flow.
We're gonna go like Yitzy. This episode will be released, live as completed, just the way that Yitzy does it. So
makes it so much more fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for having us.
Thank you, guys. Good seeing you.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time.
Take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Block and Order. A huge thank you to Yitzy and Yarden for joining us. It's a little later in their day, and they were already on cocktail hour, which I was very jealous of. But very spirited discussion. Always good to see those guys. Moish, you know them better than I do, so I'm sure you feel the same. Just remember, everybody, nothing that you hear on this show, particularly this episode, is meant to be construed as legal or financial advice. Please consult your own attorney if you're going to take the plunge. Any discussion of assets or cryptocurrencies on the course of the show is not meant to be construed as an endorsement of said assets. A very special thank you to producer Sean. Without him, the show would not be possible. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on our socials. The links are down below in the show notes. So on behalf of Moish Peltz, I'm Kyle Lawrence. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.